Welcome to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast. This is Diane, your lactation consultant.
And I'm Abby, the Badass Breastfeeder.
This is really cool. We have an interview today, which, we don't do a lot of interviews, but this one is really, really good. It's really important. I think everybody's going to enjoy hearing about it. It's with Lisa from Ceres Chill, and we're talking about the science behind milk storage. So I think, there's a lot of controversy in the milk storage world about how can you mix milk? Should you not mix milk? What happens if you leave it out?
So many rules.
So we are breaking that down today. And I think it's going to help a lot of people that are out there trying to pump and store and, make sure they're doing the right thing.
Hi, I am with Lisa today from Ceres Chill, and we are going to talk about all the things. We're going to talk about the science behind milk storage and that awful myth about how you can't combine milk. We get those questions all the time. And we're going to talk all about what the truth is behind that.
It's just so great to be part of this massive movement in breast milk research. And really, as many terrible things as have come out of COVID, one of the great things is the renewed focus on the power of breast milk and what humans are capable of creating for their babies, and how we need to really respect that, honor it, and move away from the frailty consideration, which was imposed, I think, by traditional medicine for so many years, and now acknowledge all of the incredible properties of breast milk and how strong it is, how resilient it is, and how we don't need to, care for it with these kid gloves.
How did this concept get out into the world of breast milk is so delicate that we have to be really careful of how we store it and what we do with it once it is outside of our body. And this is not the truth. This is not accurate information, but we go into it. And I remember even when I was first becoming a lactation consultant, and I remember learning that you could not shake, or you should not, I shouldn't say could not, you should not shake human milk because you're going to break up the long chain fatty acids that are in that milk. And that is detrimental. So you should not be shaking it. And then a few years later, it came out, people were like, that's not real. Like, that's not a thing. Like, just shake it up and serve it away. Like, that is not a thing. People are very, very worried about what will happen if their milk touches each other. If it's been pumped at two separate times, what can happen? I'm like, nothing will happen to it.
I hate to break it to you, but nothing good, bad, or interesting is going to happen.
It is what it is. It's milk. It's human milk is way more indestructible than we give it credit for.
Rather than encouraging parents and telling them how incredibly powerful and resilient their breast milk is and what they're capable of doing, we're telling them, be careful. It's fragile. Don't wreck it. Don't poison your child. Go take these extra steps if you love them. If you want to get to, 3 months, 6 months, a year, you better do it right. And here is the following guidelines. And it's like, I feel like it's like in the cartoons where they unfurl the tablet and it just like spills down the stairs. And it's like, wow, I had no idea that I was going to need to memorize all of these different like hours, days, weeks, months, temperatures, conditions, materials. I mean, it's so much. And the only explanation I've been able to get from the powers that be is that this comes from food handling, that there has been, I have not been able to find a single sliver of research involving breast milk that shows an increase of bacteria when you add warm milk to children. But I think there's a sense of security that comes with rules. And so there's been resistance to change rules because there's just risk, right? Like it's been fine from what I can see, this recommendation goes back to Protocol 8 by the Academy of Pediatric Medicine. And from what I can see, and I can't see back farther than this because I don't have access to the Library of Congress, but it goes back like 25 years about. And it's related to food storage. And Diane, what I always say, and I think you'll agree, is breast milk is not dead flesh. It is alive. It has really incredible living properties to it. And you said before that it's indestructible. What's incredible about it is that it's actually destructive in the best ways. That It goes after the bad stuff to save our children from the bad stuff, using its incredible power and live forces for good. And so it does have, these incredible antibacterial qualities to it. It goes after the bad bacteria to leave space for all of the good bacteria that our babies need. And so I'm pretty sure it goes back to some very traditional doctor and food handling practices from, a couple decades ago or more. And women have been told, you must care for your breast milk like we care for these other food items. And maybe some of those make sense. Many of them don't, for the reasons you and I have talked about. And no, breast milk is a living thing until we kill it, but which is, freezing it or pasteurizing it or whatever else. But when a woman or person expresses breast milk and it is there, it is a living thing that is behaving like no other food that exists in the world. It is remarkable. It is something else entirely. And so while some food handling rules may apply to breast milk, fine. Let's base that on research. Let's look at breast milk in those conditions and let's see what breast milk does if we're thinking of applying those rules or telling women they have to behave in this way. Let's look at breast milk. Don't tell me what I have to do based on your hunk of chicken. That is not relevant and it's actually harmful. And I am so done with it. And so, yeah. And people have been functioning and feeding their babies for a long time without refrigerators. And somehow we've all made it this far as a species.
Yes. We talk about that a lot on the podcast, how we have come this far as a species breastfeeding. And for some reason, it gets harder every year.
Yeah.
It really, we make this so much more difficult than it needs to be. And it's just mind boggling to me sometimes. I'm like, why? And I'm thinking, like, as you were talking, I'm thinking about the whole concept of like washing pump parts.
Yeah.
Right. Like how I know personally me, and I know a lot of other lactation consultants will also tell working parents, save yourself a little time, take the pump parts, put them in a baggie, put them in a bowl, put them in something, stick them in the refrigerator, wash them once at the end of the day. Don't wash in between. It's not necessary. It's breast milk. It's not causing any problem. It's not. I read this there was a Facebook group one time where there was this huge battle going on in this Facebook group about how horrible that was to do and how you're risking giving your child bacteria. How could you possibly do that? This is horrible. And it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. The amount of vitriol and anger and passion around these rules is really surprising to me. And I think it's a lot of mom shaming that continues. It's like the old pump and dump rule. I mean, there's so much upset about moms, poisoning their babies with whatever they're putting in their bodies. But can you imagine the thousands of gallons that were lost?
That is a myth that will never die. Our milk is amazing. And there is no reason why we should believe that something's wrong with it. Whether we pool milk together, whether we have a drink, whether we let a bottle sit out, that milk is still good. There's nothing wrong with it, but we're told that there is. It's somehow not good enough. It does not have to be complicated. We are making this way more complicated than it needs to be. And the fact that they're doing research about it, I mean, there's a lot of, they're spending research money and research dollars on whether or not you can put your milk together.
I know. And that's the heartbreaking thing. And yet without that research, nobody trusts it because we're all indoctrinated to believe that our breast milk is frail and that without handling it in this very, very specific, and impossible way, it will kill our babies who we love so much. And so only through significant clinical trials can we confirm that breast milk won't poison our babies.
Even though we've been doing this as a society for 1,000,000 years.
Medicine is just slow to change. Doctors often learn things like this by following more senior doctors around and hearing it said and then saying it again. And then a new generation of doctors learns the same way. Mm-hmm. And that once it gets established over decades and generations, well, then it's just scripture. And to change it is to take a huge risk. And no one wants to take that risk. And especially when, I'm going to say it, Diane, when it doesn't matter to you, when it has no impact on your life and what you're trying to accomplish, when it seems like some small thing that is a burden on someone that is somewhat remote from you, well, then who the hell cares? Why am I going to stick my neck out on a change to what we know to be a safe way when saying the opposite might also be just as safe, but it's going to help with some small, what you perceive as some small inconvenience for some person out there that you don't even really know or you only see every once in a while. Like, why would you change? And the answer is because it's freaking hard. And if you add one more thing to that poor woman's plate, shame on you. Like, fix it. It's broken. Fix it. Mm-hmm. You broke it. You old guy. You're still fix it.
It's maddening when you hear that. There was a couple of years ago, a mom that I was working with who called me up frantic because she realized that her freezer had stopped working. Uh-huh. Right? How many times have we heard that story? Freezer had stopped working and she had 500 ounces of breast milk in there. And of course, her husband said, "Oh my God, what about the meat?" And she goes, "Who cares about the meat? My breast milk is in here." And she's like, "Do I have to toss it?" And we talked about it. Is it cold? Is it, how long has it been? How long do you think it's been? I looked and looked and looked and looked for the research behind it. I could find absolutely nothing that said there was anything wrong with that milk if you refreeze it. I mean, but there is how many people have thrown breast milk away that they have defrosted, and just because they were told without any background, without any basis, without any research, you cannot refreeze that milk.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and what I didn't hear in there, Diane, I'm very curious. Why didn't you ask them to assess the meat, smell the meat, figure out whether or not the meat's okay, and then make a decision about the breast milk?
Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, because that's all we care about is whether or not that steak made it through the process. I just can't.
Oh man.
But there was no way I was going to tell that mother to throw away 500 bags of breast milk.
I think it goes a long way to encouraging mothers to know how powerful they are and what they're creating in any small way, what it's doing for their child. And when we put these barriers up or spread this misinformation or say anything close to breast milk is frail and not resilient, we are stealing some piece of power from the parents that are doing their very best. And that kills me and I won't stand for it. And that's why I love you guys so much, because you don't either.
We don't. No, we don't like that one bit. Thanks, Lisa.
Okay, bye.
Bye.